It's not just being a good electrician or a good roofer, painter, drywaller, chiropractor, dentist, florist, baker, whatever. All that's great. We need all that. But if you don't understand the business side of it, basically you got a successful hobby and you're working your butt. You basically start a job for yourself, which isn't the goal. If you're going to start a business, the idea is I have a business that I own, that I oversee and administer, but I can go do other businesses or go vacation or do whatever because I have a business that is running based on established systems and processes that are business sound, not just a process of how to execute a sales agreement or how to get a job into production or how to do post-production checkups or some of these other smaller processes within the larger scope of things. How are you judging your metrics to make sure that those processes are doing what they need to be doing to be efficient?
And another key thing you brought up was is once you're in, especially with customers, and once you're in the door, and once they've paid the first time, they're more likely to pay again. They're more likely to work with you again. And so
Correct.
this is where having the upsells or adjacent offers come into play, especially what you brought on with the referrals. Like incentivizing someone to bring, like everyone's like, hey, do you know an extra three people? Do you know like great, you can do that to get referrals. But when you're incentivizing somebody to give you referrals, now it changes the game. And now you can, I think there's four different types of ways to get leads, which is, the cold outreach, cold calling, etc., the advertising and marketing, having your employees get you clients, and then referral partners. So when you're incentivizing people to go out there and bring you clients, now that's yeah, you're kind of paying them like, hey, we'll pay you $500 for every three referrals, or we'll pay you 500, we'll pay you 1,000, because as long as, same thing with the price to value, it's how much is it costing you to get someone who will work with you, right? And they may not bring you that referral tomorrow, but if they bring it to you in a month, 2 months, 3 months, they still brought it to you. And a lot of times it's going to come down to how much are you willing to spend to get another client? Because a lot of people are like, oh, it's a slow season, right? Like I'm trying to stop the slow season. Well, the reason you're going through the slow season is because you haven't built the right systems and processes to make sure
Yep.
that you're avoiding those slow seasons. Because the larger businesses, they don't really have the types of slow seasons you're having. Yeah, you're doing 1 to 5 million a year, maybe 10 million a year, but hey, we're in a slow season right now. Well, why are you in a slow season? What do you do to avoid that slow season? So, and I know you spoke about judging different numbers and metrics that they're tracking. So I know a lot of business owners, they want to track like, oh, our click-through rate, or our, the BS indicators. A lot of times is what they're tracking versus tracking what actually matters. So when it comes to tracking and judging different metrics in your business, what would you say, especially for the trade businesses, right? Like, what are the important, in your opinion, right? What are the important metrics they should be charging when it comes to marketing, and then when it comes to sales, and then when it comes to back end employee?
Well, the bigger way to look at things are you want to be at a minimum of $350,000 per head on payroll in revenue per year, minimum. Ideally, you want to be at 500,000, and this would be for trade contractors. Um, so that's a way to look and see whether or not you're efficient or top heavy. So if you're spending, if you've got people on staff and your math comes out to where you're at 300,000 per head, you're top heavy. Somebody got to go,
Hmm.
or you need to figure out how to add revenue quick. So that would be one metric to see where you're at. And then the rest is really formulaic as far as, different ad spend is going to add up differently, you know, painting's gonna be one way, electrical another, roofing another, your pay-per-click, it's gonna vary. But just as long as your ROI is where it needs to be on that, you're fine. Devote as much budget as you want, just as long as you're staying within your ratio.
Right.
Because you also look at the lifetime value of that customer. So you might get a $20,000 roof out of them today, but do you get a $5,000 Christmas light job out of them 8 months from now? Right? So now you got $28,000 in lifetime, or you could call it lifetime revenue. That would be the same year. But again, they're a customer. They already paid you. They trust you. So you can hit them with other services as you grow and expand and pivot and do different things. So, if your customer acquisition cost was $1,000 to get 28,000 all day long. So just again, that's very formulaic. So it's hard to kind of get specific because different industry are going to be a little bit different, based on your customer acquisition cost and your price in your cost per click. And then you got your conversion, so your cost per click is X, gets you a whole bunch of clicks, but then what's your conversion rate, which is
On those
obviously going to be
clicks.
less. So now, and then at the end of the day, out of those that convert, what's their lifetime value in revenue? And then what does that formula spit out? And are you at the right ratio? In fact, I got a whole 8-week training class on it's called financial training for business owners. And I had a dude come at me one time. Well, you're not talking about this, that, and the other thing, and he mentioned triple net and net, and I'm like, please, dude, show me any P&L on the planet that mentions net. Show me. I'll sit here and wait, please. Guess what? Crickets. Because there's only 3 numbers. I don't care what kind of business you have. There's only 3 numbers on your profit and loss statement that you have any direct control over. Your revenue number, your cost of goods sold, and your overhead. Those are the only 3 numbers that you can control. Other than that, it's all based on those 3 numbers. It's a formula, adding, subtracting, dividing, multiplying of those 3 numbers. And you had mentioned something about commissions. Like in the trade space, roofing, they boggle my mind all the time. They don't get it. And again, monkey see, monkey do. Now, they don't have any business acumen, so it's hard for them to comprehend it. Despite how many times I say it, they still don't get it. That they don't understand the difference between markup and margin. And that's a problem. Well, how much are you guys charging for this? Who cares? Well, why do you want to know what your competitor charges? Your competitor might say, let's talk about a square of asphalt shingles. We'll talk architectural. So here in the Atlanta area, all in between materials, labor, dumpster, they're at about $380 a square. So how much? So if your cost is $380 a square, how much do you charge? They want to ask each other. Maybe you're asking a guy who's got a lot of buying power, so his cost, per square is cheaper, both labor and materials. Maybe he's only at $300 a square. So when he marks his up for the same, say, 40% margin that you're marking up, the price is still way different. So what your competitor's charging is irrelevant. You need to know your numbers. You need to know how to mark your stuff up for your desired gross profit margin. And if you know, and you have to know what your desired gross profit margin is, because you have to know your overhead to get at your proper net profit margin. This they don't comprehend. They don't know. They don't understand. And then the other thing they're always arguing about is, especially in the insurance space with the Xactimate and Symbility programs being very line item driven. well, the adjuster says we don't owe for that line item, or we don't owe for supervisory hours, we don't owe for overhead and profit. And I'm like, yeah, well, when you go to Walmart and buy that apple pie from the bakery, does it have apples listed out? Does it have a cup of sugar? Does it have brown sugar? Does it have cinnamon? Does it have, yeast and all, whatever else goes in? No. Here's the freaking pie. It's $8 or whatever it is. It's all in there. How did they come up with $8? Cost of goods sold plus their desired, plus the markup for their desired profit margin. Here's the sales price. Every business on the planet does that, except for roofers and mitigators, because they're so in love with the insurance companies. But it's like going to Vegas and expecting to win. You're playing the line item game and they're experts at it. You're never going to win. You might win a few hands, but at the end of the day, you're not where you want to be, need to be, or should be. And what's it boil back to? Business acumen.
Yep. So, question I wrote down, how do you help the business owners, overcome the resistance to change, right? Particularly when it comes to just implementing new systems, implementing new marketing metrics, or even when it comes to their way of hiring people, their way of training people, right? Regardless of what it is, because I know there's always a lot of resistance, right? Especially, as you, let's say, level up in business, you make more money, your ego starts to go up a little bit, right? So how do you, again, how do you help those types of business owners overcome the resistance to change?
It isn't easy. I mean, in the trade space, dentists, chiropractors, lawyers, accountants tend to be more book educated, if you will, and have at least some business acumen. Lawyers suck at collecting money. They know how much to charge and they know how to argue contracts and whatever they do, but they suck at collecting money. They don't understand. But having that education, they got enough going up here to at least know what they don't know, right? So part of it is to get the contractors to understand that they know what they know, but they don't know what they don't know. So somebody like me knows what they don't know, and we work together. So with the software and stuff that I have, I can show them real time where they're at, and if we make these incremental changes, where they could be. It's data driven. The software uses 497 million algorithmic sequences to help show this data picture where it's at. Some of them are just closed-minded, and I've learned you can't argue with a closed-minded person. Dude, just go hit your head against a brick wall. I mean, what do you want me to do?
Right.
But those that want to listen, those that understand they don't know what they don't know, we start with the foundation. So you as a business, what is your goal? Outside of revenue and profit, who is your avatar? What is your market dominating position? What makes you special over your 4 closest competitors? Those types of things. So we scale it way back. And then we build on the foundational principles of business. And then once you've got that, now you've got a market dominating position. So how does that market dominating position then segue into a compelling offer? Once you've got a compelling offer, so now you can start building your sales scripts. Now you can start building out your SOPs for the systems and processes within. How do you get the sales contract? How do you submit the sales contract? What positions do what, job descriptions, and then so everything is its own system. The greater ecosystem is its own systems and processes, but each one of those little functions or roles is its own systems and processes. And each one's got its own,
Yeah.
steps you have to go through to get there. But when they work with me, because I'm not a mindset coach, not at all. I mean, I know some, buzzwords and some tricky things to say that are kind of cool and make sense.